The stars sparkled in the vast black sky like tiny diamonds scattered across a velvet cloth. Among them, a single starship descended toward the human colony of New Terra. Inside, a young alien princess named Lyra clutched a small glowing crystal to her chest. Her skin shimmered faintly in soft lavender, and her large silver eyes reflected a mix of hope, fear, and uncertainty. She was small, fragile in appearance, and very different from the proud, strong Aranthians who ruled her homeworld. Her people had sent her away, not because she lacked intelligence or wisdom, but because she was too delicate for the harsh politics and battles of her empire. Lyra had always been different. She could heal minor injuries with a touch, calm raging tempers with a song, and sense the emotions of others without them speaking a word. But these gifts, her people said, made her weak. They did not understand that strength comes in many forms. Now far from the world that had rejected her, she hoped humans would see her for who she truly was, not for her delicate appearance or her soft voice, but for the courage she carried in her heart. The landing pad was crowded with humans, curious but cautious. Whispers followed her everywhere she went. Some looked at her with polite curiosity, while others glanced sideways, doubtful that someone so fragile could survive in a harsh, practical human world. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. She had left everything behind, her home, her family, her empire. All she wanted was acceptance, friendship, maybe even understanding. The human delegation that greeted her was formal, careful, and distant. They bowed, they spoke politely, but there was no warmth in their eyes. "Welcome, Princess Lyra," said Ambassador Varn, his tone respectful but cold. "We hope your stay on New Terra will be enlightening." Lyra managed a small smile. "I hope only to learn from you," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Her words hung in the air, fragile and trembling like a tiny flame trying to survive a storm. Yet despite her gentle tone, the humans did not respond with genuine kindness. They nodded and smiled politely, but their gazes seemed to weigh her like she was a delicate object, too easily broken to be trusted. Among the delegation stood Commander Jason Hale. Broad, scarred, and commanding, he had seen more battles than most people could imagine. He was known for his strategic mind, his toughness, and his ability to survive situations that would break most humans. Yet something in Lyra's eyes held his attention. Where others saw fragility, he saw courage, the kind of courage that cannot be measured in muscle or weapons or rank. A quiet bravery, almost invisible yet impossible to ignore. Later that evening, the humans held a formal welcome ceremony. Lyra stood before the crowd, trembling slightly but determined. Her voice rang clear as she spoke of her dreams. Peace between worlds, understanding between species, and the hope that even the smallest heart could change the universe. She hoped they would see her not as a fragile alien, but as a young princess with a vision. The applause was polite but restrained. The murmurs continued. "She's too delicate, too soft. Can she really survive here?" The words stung, and Lyra felt her shoulders slump. She had expected doubt, but not such sharp dismissal. Jason watched silently from the back. He saw something no one else seemed to notice. The small tremble in her hands, the quiet sadness behind her silver eyes, and the light that refused to be snuffed out. In that moment, he made a decision. While the humans doubted her, he would not. He would see her as she truly was, and he would stand by her side if she needed it. That night, Lyra sat alone in her quarters, staring at the stars. She wondered if she had made a mistake in leaving her home, and yet somewhere deep in her heart, a small spark of hope remained, because for the first time she felt that someone, a human, had already seen her courage. Life on New Terra was harder than Lyra had imagined. The colony was bustling, noisy, and full of people who measured worth by strength, speed, and cunning. Everywhere she went, whispers followed her. Some humans stared openly, others avoided her gaze, but all seemed to treat her like a delicate artifact rather than a living, breathing person. Every step she took felt heavy, as if the weight of their doubts pressed down on her tiny shoulders. Lyra tried to hide her fear behind polite smiles and soft words. She wanted to speak, to ask questions, to learn about the humans and their strange, vibrant world. But each time she opened her mouth, someone would respond with clipped, cold words or turn away in disinterest. She felt invisible in the crowd, fragile in ways the humans could see but not understand. Her heart ached with longing, not just for her home, but for a place where she could belong. One afternoon, while walking through the colony's gardens, Ambassador Varn approached her. His expression was sharp and his tone even sharper. "Princess Lyra," he said, "you cannot continue to behave like a child. You are a representative of your people. If you cannot show strength, you will be dismissed. Fragility has no place here." Lyra's hands trembled. I only wish to be kind," she whispered. "I do not want to hurt anyone." "Kindness is meaningless in this galaxy," Varn replied coldly. "Power matters. Strength matters, and you appear too weak to matter at all." His words cut her deeper than any weapon ever could. Lyra felt tears prick at her eyes, but she blinked them away. She had left everything familiar, risking loneliness and danger, hoping that humans could see more than appearances. And yet here was another voice telling her she was too fragile, too soft, too small. The weight of rejection pressed on her chest, making it hard to breathe. That evening, Lyra found herself alone in her quarters, staring at the twin moons outside her window. Her reflection in the glass looked tiny, almost invisible, and she wondered if she truly belonged anywhere. For the first time since leaving Aranthia, fear and doubt overtook hope. Perhaps she had been foolish to think that anyone could see the strength in her heart. The door creaked open, and Jason Hale stepped inside without knocking. His presence was calm, steady, and commanding, yet gentle. He had noticed her growing sorrow, her quiet retreat from the world, and he would not let her face it alone. "You feel small," he said simply, sitting beside her. Lyra flinched but did not move away. "I am small and weak," she whispered. "Everyone says so." "I don't know why I even try." Jason shook his head. "You are not weak, Princess. You've survived more than most people could imagine. Leaving your home, stepping into a world that doesn't understand you, that takes more courage than anyone here can see." She looked up at him, silver eyes glistening. "But they will never accept me. Humans, my own people. Everyone thinks I am fragile." Jason placed a firm, warm hand over hers. "Fragile? No, you're brave. Strong in ways that matter the most. Most people measure strength by muscle, by weapons, by authority. But true strength, real strength, is in heart and courage and love, and you have all of that." Lyra felt her chest tighten, but not from fear. For the first time since arriving, someone truly understood her. Someone saw beyond her delicate appearance and recognized the power in her gentle spirit. A tiny warmth spread through her chest, a spark of hope she thought had been extinguished. Jason's voice softened. "You don't have to face this world alone. Let me help you. Let me see you as you truly are." Lyra blinked, struggling to find words. Her voice was barely audible. I don't know how to belong here." "You belong anywhere you choose," he said firmly. "And I will stand with you, as long as you let me." That night, Lyra lay awake by the window, listening to the wind rustling through the colony. She felt a shift inside her, a quiet courage that grew like a small flame. Perhaps she was different, fragile in the eyes of many, but not weak. Perhaps with someone like Jason beside her, she could face the world and show them what true strength really meant. The stars twinkled overhead, distant yet familiar, and for the first time, Lyra believed that being fragile was not a weakness. It was the beginning of a power she had yet to understand. Days passed, and Lyra slowly began to adjust to life on New Terra. But the world still felt heavy and unwelcoming. The humans were polite yet distant, and the whispers of doubt followed her wherever she went. Still, Jason Hale remained a steady presence. He did not push, did not demand, and did not treat her as fragile. Instead, he offered understanding, patience, and the kind of quiet encouragement that made her feel safe. It started with small things. Jason would accompany her on walks through the colony gardens, pointing out strange plants and animals and sharing stories of human life and history. Lyra listened, fascinated, and in return she spoke of Aranthia, its vast violet forests, towering crystal cities, and the traditions she had been raised to uphold. He listened not just with his ears but with his attention, and it made her feel important in a way she had never known. One afternoon, Jason suggested they try training together. Lyra hesitated. She had little experience in combat, and the humans viewed physical strength as the measure of worth. But he smiled, reassuring her. "You don't have to fight like me," he said. "We'll find your way." They started with simple exercises, footwork, balance, coordination, but as days went by, Jason taught her techniques that suited her unique abilities. She moved gracefully, her small frame weaving around larger opponents. Jason watched in awe as she adapted not by brute strength but by precision, focus, and cleverness. Every successful move brought a small glow to her eyes, a quiet pride that began to replace the loneliness she had carried. The other humans noticed their time together. Whispers started again, this time questioning why Jason, a celebrated human hero, spent so much effort with a delicate alien. "Why waste your time on her?" they asked. "She's too fragile to matter in our world." Jason ignored them. He had learned something the others could not see. Strength comes in many forms, and courage is not always loud or violent. Lyra had a strength that could heal, inspire, and endure, and he believed that was far more valuable than anyone's doubt. One evening, a sudden rainstorm swept across the colony. The gardens emptied quickly, and Lyra was caught alone in the downpour. Jason ran to her side, extending a hand. "Come with me," he said, voice calm and steady. Hesitant, she placed her hand in his, and together they ran through the rain, laughing as the water soaked them. Lyra felt a thrill she had not experienced in months. Her laughter rang clear and unafraid, echoing through the empty paths. Jason laughed too, a warm, deep sound that filled the spaces where doubt had lived. In that moment, Lyra felt a connection she had only dreamed of, a bond not of politics or obligation, but of trust, understanding, and joy. As the storm passed, they stood side by side, drenched and smiling, under the first stars of the evening. Lyra's heart swelled with gratitude and warmth. She realized that strength did not always come from power or authority. It came from courage, from trust, from allowing herself to be seen and accepted. And for the first time, someone truly saw her. Jason looked at her, eyes serious now. "You don't have to hide your heart here," he said softly. "Not with me. You can be yourself fully without fear." Tears shimmered in Lyra's silver eyes, but they were no longer tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of hope, of a fragile heart finding its courage. She smiled through them. I didn't think anyone could understand me," she whispered. "You're not alone," Jason replied. "Not now. Not ever if you don't want to be." For the first time since leaving Oranthea, Lyra felt a sense of belonging. The whispers of doubt and judgment still existed in the world, but their voices no longer held power over her. With Jason beside her, she could face anything. Her fragility was not a weakness, it was part of her strength, and together they had begun a bond that neither time nor distance could break. From that moment, Lyra began to see New Terra not as a place of judgment, but as a world of possibility. And for Jason, he discovered that courage could appear in the quietest hearts, and that love, fragile though it might seem, could be stronger than steel. Life on New Terra was beginning to feel lighter for Lyra. She had found a friend, and more than a friend, in Jason Hale. A human who saw the courage in her heart when the rest of the world could not, but her peace was about to be tested. One morning, a formal communication arrived from Oranthea. The council demanded that Lyra return to her homeworld immediately. They had arranged a marriage for her, a political alliance meant to strengthen the empire, not to honor her feelings. Lyra's stomach twisted at the words. She had hoped to escape the suffocating expectations of her people, to find a place where she could breathe freely, where her heart could matter. Now the very chains she had fled threatened to pull her back. She tried to hide her fear, speaking to the delegation with calm, measured words. I appreciate the concern of my council," she said softly, "but I am not ready to return. I need time to understand myself, to know who I am beyond the expectations of others." The humans in the delegation whispered among themselves, some doubtful, some sympathetic. Whispers of fragile princess and foolish girl still lingered, but Jason stood quietly by her side, unshaken. He had anticipated this, he had prepared, and he would not let her face this alone. That evening, he found her in the garden, sitting alone beneath a silver-leafed tree, staring at the twin moons. The wind rustled her hair and her shoulders trembled slightly as if carrying the weight of the entire galaxy. "You don't have to go back if it means losing yourself," Jason said firmly, stepping closer. His voice was calm yet carried the power of conviction. "You're not fragile. You're brave. And bravery is contagious." Lyra lifted her silver eyes to him, glimmering with uncertainty. "But what can I do? They are my people. Their will is law. I have no power there. I cannot defy them alone." Jason knelt beside her, taking her hands in his. Power doesn't always come from rank or birthright, he said. It comes from the heart. True courage is doing what is right even when everyone else says you are wrong. Lyra, you have that courage. You just need to trust yourself and trust me. She shivered, torn between fear and hope. The thought of confronting the council alone was terrifying, yet Jason's words wrapped around her like a protective cloak. For the first time, she felt that her heart, fragile though it may appear, was strong enough to stand against the weight of expectation. In the days that followed, Jason trained her in more than combat. He taught her to speak with confidence, to present her thoughts with clarity, and to hold her gaze when confronted with authority. They practiced debates, scenarios of resistance, and ways to turn her perceived weakness into a visible strength. Slowly, Lyra realized that her delicate appearance could be an asset. People underestimated her, and that allowed her to speak truths they were not expecting to hear. Finally, the day came when she would address the council remotely through a secure transmission. Her voice, soft yet unwavering, filled the chamber as she explained her decision. I will not marry for politics alone. I will honor my people and my responsibilities, but I will not sacrifice my heart or my freedom. I choose the path that I believe is right, and I stand by it no matter the consequences. The council murmured in shock. Some were angered, some confused, but none could dismiss the conviction in her voice. Lyra felt the power of her own words resonate within her. And for the first time, she realized that courage could be louder than fear, and heart could be stronger than tradition. When she ended the transmission, her hands were trembling, but her eyes shone with newfound determination. Jason stepped forward, offering her a reassuring smile. You did it, he said. You faced the world and showed them the strength of your heart. Lyra breathed deeply, letting the tension slip from her shoulders. The challenge was far from over, but she knew she was no longer alone. And for the first time, she believed that her fragile heart was capable of changing the course of her destiny. Lyra returned to Aranthia's council chambers with a mixture of fear and determination. The halls were tall and imposing, filled with crystal pillars that reflected the light in harsh, cold patterns. The council members waited, their eyes sharp and skeptical. They expected weakness, expected her to bow and accept the arranged marriage that would secure political alliances. What they did not expect was courage. Lyra's silver eyes met theirs steadily, and she lifted her chin. I will not marry someone I do not choose, she declared, her voice soft yet firm. The room fell silent. Some council members sneered, others whispered, but no one could ignore her words. She had taken the first step in standing for herself, and there was no turning back. The council laughed, calling her naive and foolish. You are fragile, one elder spat. You are unprepared to face the responsibilities of a princess. You cannot defy us and survive. Lyra's heart raced, but Jason, who had accompanied her, stood silently by her side. His presence was a steady anchor, giving her the courage to face their judgment. She drew a slow breath and continued. Fragility is not weakness. My strength is in my heart, in my choices, and in my courage to speak the truth. I will honor my people, but I will not abandon myself. The chamber buzzed with murmurs. Humans and sympathetic Aranthians alike began to take notice. For the first time, Lyra realized that strength could be found not in force or command alone, but in conviction and moral courage. People were listening, even if they did not all approve. Jason stepped forward, addressing the council with authority. Princess Lyra's courage is remarkable. She has faced rejection, isolation, and doubt, yet she stands here firm and determined. Strength is not always measured in power or aggression. Sometimes it is measured in heart, and hers is stronger than most. The room grew quieter. Some council members looked shocked, others thoughtful. The humans who had doubted her now observed in silence, realizing that the fragile princess they had whispered about carried a power they could not deny. Lyra's heart swelled. The words of a human ally, someone who truly saw her, gave her voice resonance and weight she had never experienced. Over the following days, Lyra continued to assert her will. She engaged in debates, presented ideas for alliances, and demonstrated intelligence and insight that few expected from someone labeled fragile. Her voice grew stronger, more confident. She realized that being underestimated was no longer a burden. It was an advantage. The council had expected compliance and submission, but instead, they faced a young princess whose courage and moral clarity left them without words. Meanwhile, Jason remained by her side, guiding and encouraging, never pushing, always believing. He celebrated her small victories with quiet smiles and steady reassurances, reminding her that strength was not about being fearless, but about moving forward despite fear. Lyra began to see herself differently. She was not fragile. She was formidable in ways her enemies could not comprehend. In one particularly tense session, the council demanded an immediate answer about her marriage. Lyra stood tall, silver eyes shining. "I will not marry for politics alone," she said. "I will do what is right for my people, but I will not sacrifice my freedom or my heart. I am responsible for myself, and I will not betray who I am." A hush fell over the chamber. Even the harshest council members paused, realizing that their expectations were no longer controlling her. For the first time, Lyra felt the exhilaration of true autonomy. She had faced the judgment of her empire and survived, not by force but by courage, conviction, and heart. When the session ended, she stepped outside into the fresh air, Jason following. He took her hand gently. "You did it," he said, smiling. "You showed them what courage really looks like." Lyra looked at him, tears of relief and pride in her eyes. "I couldn't have done it alone," she admitted softly. "Thank you for believing in me." Jason squeezed her hand. "Believing in you was the easiest thing in the galaxy," he said. "You are stronger than anyone has ever known, Lyra, and together we can face anything." That night, as Lyra gazed at the twin moons over the Aranthian city, she felt a profound change within herself. She was no longer the fragile princess who had arrived months ago. She was a leader, a survivor, and a heart unafraid to face the world, even when the world rejected her. And beside her stood a human who had taught her that love and courage could conquer even the harshest judgments. The days that followed Lyra's defiance of the council were filled with quiet triumphs and subtle victories. She had proven her courage, and the whispers of doubt began to fade. Yet the journey was not over. Her heart still carried the weight of loneliness, the longing for someone who could understand her fully. That someone, she realized more each day, was Jason Hale. They spent long hours together, walking through the gardens, exploring the winding streets of the colony, and discussing ideas for peace and alliances between worlds. Jason admired the way Lyra observed everything, the tiniest detail in a plant, the way humans interacted, even the way emotions shifted across a crowded room. She noticed what others overlooked, and in her observations, she saw truths that no strategy or weapon could reveal. One evening, as twin moons rose over New Terra, Jason led her to a quiet hill overlooking the colony. The stars stretched endlessly above them, a tapestry of light and possibility. Lyra's silver eyes reflected the night sky, and Jason noticed the faint glow of her inner light, the same strength he had seen from the very beginning. "You've changed," he said softly, his voice warm and steady. "You're no longer just the princess who arrived here uncertain and afraid. You've grown stronger, braver, and the world is beginning to see it." Lyra turned to him, her eyes shimmering. "I didn't know I could be this strong," she admitted. "I didn't know someone could see me for who I really am." Jason took her hand gently. "I've always seen you. I saw it the moment you stepped onto New Terra, and I will keep seeing you every day if you let me." A shiver ran through Lyra, not from fear, but from a warmth that spread across her chest. For the first time, she realized that the bond between them was not just friendship or alliance. It was something deeper, something that had grown quietly, patiently through shared moments, trust, and understanding. I never thought I would find someone who understands me," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Someone who believes in me, even when everyone else doubts me." Jason's smile was soft but unwavering. "You don't have to be anyone else. You don't have to hide your heart. I see you, all of you, Lyra, and I care for you, more than I can say." Lyra felt tears prick at her eyes. She had spent so long being judged, rejected, and told she was too fragile. Yet here was someone who not only saw her strength but cherished it, who valued her heart above everything else. Slowly she leaned toward him, their foreheads touching, the stars above reflecting their quiet connection. "I care for you too," she said softly, a smile breaking through her tears. I think I've been waiting for this my whole life." Jason wrapped an arm around her, holding her close. "Then we'll face everything together," he said. "The galaxy, the councils, the expectations, they can all wait. Right now, we have this moment, and we have each other." Lyra rested her head against his shoulder, feeling a peace she had never known. In the warmth of Jason's presence, she realized that strength was not just in standing alone against the world. It was in allowing someone to stand with you, to see your heart, to share the burden and the joy. As the twin moons bathed them in gentle light, Lyra knew that love had found a place even in her fragile heart. It was not a weakness. It was power. It was courage. And it was real. For the first time, she felt truly free, not only from the chains of expectation and doubt, but free to be herself, to love, and to be loved. With Jason beside her, she knew they could face anything. Their hearts were united across worlds, species, and fear, and in that unity, a new strength was born. The stars above seemed to shimmer a little brighter that night, bearing witness to a fragile princess who had found her courage, and a human who had found his heart in her. Together they were unstoppable. The day had come when Lyra would fully face her destiny, not as a fragile princess, but as a young leader with courage that could shake the galaxy. The council chambers were filled with representatives of Aranthia and New Terra alike. Some still doubted her, but many had come to see her differently, strong, wise, and unafraid to stand for her own heart. Lyra walked through the crystal halls, her lavender skin glowing faintly, her silver eyes calm yet piercing. Jason was by her side, steady and unyielding, his presence a constant reminder that she was never alone. She had learned the hardest lesson of all. Strength was not measured in swords, wealth, or authority, but in the courage to be herself. The council members began their session, expecting perhaps a fragile girl who could be dismissed with a few sharp words. Instead, Lyra stood tall. Her voice was clear and unwavering as she spoke. "I am Lyra of Aranthia," she said, "and I will honor my people. I will respect our traditions where they guide us, but I will not surrender my heart for convenience or politics. Strength is not in obedience alone, but in the courage to choose wisely, to stand for truth, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. I choose to lead with compassion, with wisdom, and with courage." A hush fell over the chamber. Even the most skeptical elders could not ignore the power of her words. She had become more than a princess. They could feel her heart radiating through the room, stronger than any decree, louder than any doubt. Jason stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Princess Lyra has shown something no council or empire can teach: courage of heart. True strength is measured by compassion, by understanding, by the ability to rise despite fear. She is more than capable of leading, not because she is fragile, but because she is fearless in ways the galaxy has never seen." The room was silent. Some elders' faces were softened by awe, others hardened by stubborn pride. But the seed of change had been planted. Lyra felt it. She had faced judgment, fear, and doubt, and now she had won respect not through force, but through heart and bravery. After the session ended, Lyra stepped outside into the gardens, Jason walking beside her. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in brilliant shades of gold and violet. She looked at him, her heart full, and he met her gaze with the same steady warmth that had supported her from the very beginning. "You've changed everything," he said softly. "Not just for yourself, but for everyone who doubted you. You've shown that courage is not loud. It's in the heart, in the choices we make, in the love we give and accept." Lyra's eyes glimmered. "And I couldn't have done it without you," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You believed in me when no one else did. You saw me for who I really am." Jason took her hands, holding them firmly. "I've always seen you, and I will always stand by you. Together we can face any challenge, any world, any judgment. Because love and courage, they are unstoppable." Lyra felt tears slip down her cheeks, but they were tears of triumph and joy. She realized that fragility had never been her weakness. It had been the source of her strength, the capacity to feel, to love, and to inspire. That evening, as stars began to twinkle across the darkening sky, Lyra and Jason stood hand in hand on the highest balcony of the palace. The wind whispered around them, carrying the promise of a new era. Across galaxies, whispers of doubt faded, replaced by hope. The fragile princess was no longer fragile. She was a beacon, a symbol of courage, and beside her, the human who had opened his heart became her greatest ally, her partner, and her love. As the twin moons rose, Lyra leaned into Jason, feeling the steady beat of his heart and the warmth of his presence. Together they were more than a princess and a human. They were proof that courage, love, and heart could conquer even the harshest judgments of the universe. And under the silent, glittering stars, a new story began, one of hope, love, and strength that crossed the boundaries of worlds. Lyra's journey of fragility had ended, and her true life, powerful and fearless, was only just beginning. The end.